What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 23 of Breaking Bats, brought to you by Not For Long Media. I am Brian O'Grady, and with me is my co-host, Justin Ayers. J.A., it's a tough time for you. We're going to talk about it. What do you got?
Well, I threw the national jersey on today for, it's a Gio Gonzalez jersey. That's how long ago this one goes back. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about, a lot revolving around the Washington Nationals and Juan Soto. But big week for baseball. I watched the draft on Sunday night, was in LA, gave me like mini NFL draft vibes because they had the stage and they made it much more of a spectacle than it usually was when they had it at MLB Network. And they had it before, it was on like the Studio 42, the fake baseball field, and it just felt tiny. This time's like a stage and it felt bigger. So that was Sunday. And then Home Run Derby last night on Monday. And then tonight we got the All-Star game on in the background while we're taping this on Tuesday. So big week for the game, but unfortunately on Wednesday, the day you're hearing this, it's like the worst day of the year because there's no sports on. So enjoy the ESPYs.
Yeah, that's I'll be playing. So there's sports here. Sorry for you guys. NPB will be grinding, but I'm not an ESPYs guy, so I'll be sleeping after I play. But yeah, big week, All-Star game. They're doing a better job with the draft. The baseball draft's tough because it's longer. I don't even know how many rounds there are anymore. Do you even know?
I don't.
They've cut it down so many, like, I don't know if it's 10 now or if it's 20 again. Like, I know they cut it down before. I don't know. They've moved it so much. I don't even know. But there's way more than all the other sports. So it is kind of a longer process. And the guys who are getting drafted just don't have as much publicity as the other, sports. So it's harder to kind of make into something. But at the same time, it's good for MLB to try to make it into a little bit of a spectacle.
Yeah. The first 5 picks kind of ish. Kumar Rocker came back again, which is cool. Drafted number 3 by Texas. But yeah, you're right. It's the NFL draft. You watch these guys on college football Saturdays for all these years and you're like, oh, I know exactly who that is. And baseball, it's like, he's 17 years old. He's the son of a former tight end. What do we got? We all know. So, and then my favorite is when we're just trying to figure out how quickly they can get to the big leagues. It's like, ooh, the Nationals drafted an outfielder. Is that Soto's replacement? It's like, he's 18. Can't even go facial hair. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no like draft for need in baseball. Because you never know. So it's not football where you need a wide receiver, so you pick a wide receiver. No, you're just like, hey, we think this guy's pretty good. Let's take him, see what happens in a couple years.
Yeah, legit. I think there's one guy the Cardinals may have taken a pitcher out of Oklahoma State, and they're like, this guy might come up this year. I'm like, oh, how sick is that? That's the best. When a guy comes up and he gets drafted and he comes up and makes his debut the same year, I love that. They need to do more of that.
That's really hard to do. Very hard to do.
There's not too many of them. Ryan Zimmerman did it. Going back to the Nationals.
Brandon Finnegan.
Right. Yeah. That was the other one. Yeah. Pitching the World Series.
It's in the College World Series and the World Series in the same year.
What a stud. TCU
and the Royals.
Look at me. I'm on fire tonight.
Oh,
yeah. Reds legend. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't mention that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a couple things in the news category. We have first up, the Home Run Derby recap. So Juan Soto became the second youngest player ever to win the Home Run Derby on Monday. He beat out 21-year-old Mariners phenom Julio Rodriguez. I don't think anybody really had that in their bracket of like potential final round. I thought Pete Alonso was going to make it to the finals. I did have Soto winning it. So anybody that was following along, kind of killing it. That was just because I'm a Nationals fan. That's the only reason I picked him. But I have a couple takeaways from last night. So Julio Rodriguez is the real deal. I mean, first of all, he leads all rookies in home runs this year. One of the most under the radar. And I don't know if this is just because he plays in Seattle, which doesn't really get on TV that often. We of course know about him from our guy, Adam Frazier, watching a little more Mariners games. But yeah, I mean, when you watched him hit 32 bombs in the first round, then 32 or 31 in the second round, like, did you know that Julio had that in him?
He's phenomenal. I knew how good he's supposed to be. All the hype around him. I was aware of all that. He's having a great year, man. He's an all-star in his own right. So that's pretty impressive to do at 21. But I saw somewhere they're talking about his bat speed. His bat speed is one of the best there is. So doesn't surprise me that he was hitting balls like that out of, all those homers. That to hit that many home runs in rounds is amazing because it's very tiring taking swings like that. And the pressure, I don't think people appreciate the kind of pressure those dudes are under in that situation, because when you're taking batting practice, normally you have a turtle, or we call it a turtle. It's like the cage. So if you foul a ball off, it just hits it and keeps all the balls right there. And, there's other stuff going on the field. But when they're doing that home run derby, man, it's just them out there by themselves and everybody's watching, and there's people sitting right next to them. If they just smoke a ball foul or too excited, they'd be killing somebody. Like there's or if they swing and miss, they're gonna look like an idiot because it's BP and it's, but that's a lot of pressure. So it's definitely harder, I think, than people give it credit for. And the stamina it takes to do that is very, very impressive. So he put on a show, man. And I saw people complaining about I think he hit like 20 more homers overall than Soto did. Yeah. But Soto hit more in the, when he had to, which is kind of funny. So it's like the Josh Hamilton one we were talking about. Is it better to hit more homers, or is it better to just
to win?
Do what you got to do to win. So, but it was, man, it was a lot of fun to see.
It's crazy too, because like we talk about, the whole getting tired factor, and that's the whole reason I didn't really think Albert Pujols was going to do as well as he did, which we'll touch on in a second, because he's 42, literally double the age of Julio Rodriguez. But yeah, J-Rod looked a little gassed there at the end. I don't know if that's just because he wasn't used to that many 4-minute rounds of nothing but pure swings. But another cool thing with J-Rod I saw is that, so this year he's making the league minimum of $700K, but as the runner up in the home run derby, you make $500K. So he's going to make almost his entire year's salary just from the derby. I think Soto won and he got $1 million. I think that was the first prize. But how cool is that? Like, I mean, yeah, obviously you'd like to win, but make your salary in a night, not bad. Yeah,
that's amazing. I don't think Julio is going to be hurting for money one of these days, but it's a nice check to get. And yeah, when your salary is basically that for the whole year, that's definitely a nice little bump there. But yeah, I think he's going to be okay in that department in a few years.
No doubt, dude. Yeah. So we mentioned it. So Albert Pujols, 42 years old, put on a show. I didn't see this coming. A lot of people like me also we're like, all right, well, it'll be cool. Like he'll do a round. He'll hit 5 or 10 and be done. Give him a send off. No, he made it to round 2, faced up against Juan Soto in a very fun matchup. But yeah, so in round 1, it was Pujols and Schwarber. I'm like, oh, Schwarber's going to do what he always does in derbies and just mash the ball. So they both hit 13 in regulation. And it was funny because Pujols was like, after, I think he went first and he hit 13. He's like, that's not good enough. He took his gloves off and he gave them to Joe Musgrove's cousin. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. That's awesome.
Joe Musgrove had his teenage, or I don't know however old his cousin was. He was there with him on the little coolers. And Albert came over. He's like, here you go, youngster. And then Kyle tied him and they're like, all right, they have to go to overtime. And Albert had to go back and get his gloves from Joe Musgrove's cousin. So that's kind of like when you give a fan a ball with 2 outs thinking it's 3. Oh, you're like, can I have that back? I thought that was very funny, but yeah, Pujols sit 7 in a minute, went to the second round, lost to Soto. But I mean, to do that at his age is unthinkable, right?
That was great. I mean, listen, I know he's older, but he's been doing this for how long? I mean, the guy knows how to hit homers. There's no doubt about that. So I didn't think it was a matter of if he was going to be able to hit a homer, but like you said, the stamina that goes along with this is a lot. So that's what my question was. And obviously, man, he was fine. he looked good in there. So, but cool moment. I'm glad at least he got the win around. I think that was good. And although I did say Schwarber was going to win it, which was not good, but You win some, you lose some. It was cool to see Pujols hitting some more homers and going out like that. You see man, there's been a few times in my career where I've like seen people and was starstruck, like, holy shit, that's, whoever. Pujols was the first one, and was to say, like, that was when I was first drafted and I was playing in spring training. No, I wasn't in big league camp, and but I was at the game and I'm walking into the stadium and they were taking BP on the field, and this dude's just hitting like lasers. And I'm like, damn, wonder who that is. And I get closer to the cage and it's fucking Pujols. I'm like, oh shit, that's Albert Pujols. Like, growing up, because he was Albert Pujols. And then last year, I remember in spring training, I hit a single off Ohtani, and he was playing after I tripled off Ohtani in the first inning. But after Pujols was playing first base, and he got on first base, and he's talking to me, and I was just like, it's fucking Albert Pujols, like, pretty crazy. So you see the respect that he has from all the other players, and especially the Spanish guys. At that derby, it's just really cool, man. He's had such an unbelievable career, and he's Albert Pujols.
He's Albert Pujols.
What was the commercial? He was like the robot, like almost like the Terminator. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Years ago. God, I'll have to find it. You're probably too young. I'm old.
Well, I mean, like I remember him taking Brad Lidge deep. I mean, that's kind of like my Pujols. Brad Lidge was pitching batting practice to him. Yeah. In the NLCS.
That ball just landed like 10 minutes ago. That's how far he hit that ball.
Well, they were talking about it on the broadcast, and I didn't really understand what they were saying. It was like Pujols had to change his stance as he got older. He went from they more closed off, and his hands were different. Yeah. Is that just because it's like less wear and tear on your legs when your feet are different?
I think different things to start to feel comfortable. You know what's funny is I just pulled up Instagram because my wife sent me something, and I swear to God, the first picture that is here is Robert Hassel with Albert Pujols. He took a picture with him at the All-Star game. So that's pretty weird. But, Votto kind of went through a similar thing. Yeah. Pujols used to be real spread out, and I don't know, maybe he was so strong that he could just his swing was so simple. Maybe he could just kind of stay there and generate all that. And Votto used to kind of do that too. And then Votto switched to, I think he said he couldn't get as squatted down as he used to be, or he had to get it squatted down for a little bit, and then he couldn't do it. His bothered him in his legs. So I think hitters are always kind of tinkering and seeing what feels comfortable, because things just change for whatever reason. But I think as you get older, there's definitely something to just trying. Your body gets tired. I mean, I think about all the swings, all the stuff they're doing, like over those years, it adds up. So, but he's still doing it. So
yeah, he's the man in the arena. Yeah. He's out there still doing it at 42. His numbers aren't very good, but he's in there. He's trying.
I mean, he's pinch hitting now, so he's not an everyday guy. Listen, the pinch hitting thing is not easy, even if you're Albert Pujols. So we'll give him that.
His pitching still looks good. I think they still put him on the mound. So, maybe he can add a couple more years to the end of his career just by doing the Ephus knuckleball thing. But the other thing we wanted to talk about, and it kind of hurts my heart to even talk about it, is Juan Soto in the Nationals. So made news before the Derby. He rejected a 15-year, $440 million contract from the Nationals. That was apparently the Nationals' third offer to him in recent months. This one didn't even include any deferred money. So usually the Nationals be like, hey, we'll give you, for Scherzer, I think Scherzer got $100 million of his contract deferred until he's in his early 50s or something. The Nationals were like, hey, it's straight up. It's all going to be coming. But the only thing is that we're going to front load it or back load it. So the first couple years of the contract is going to be 26 point something, or 26.8, I think. And then for the first 9 years, and the back, it's just going to be outrageous. But Scott Boras and Juan Soto were not happy with that offer. I don't know how it became made public, but that was the whole, the baseball world was on fire, because then the Nationals were like, well, we're explore trading him. So, I mean, that's not necessarily saying that Juan's gone, but it doesn't look great. When you saw that, what did you think?
First of all, why it became public is because the Nationals wanted it public, because they're trying to show that they are trying to, did something to try to keep him. And they're assuming that the public would be on their side when they see that he turned down $440 million. But it says to me that Soto doesn't want to play there. For whatever reason, it could be because they've struggled recently after the World Series, and he's won a World Series, so I'm sure he wants to win more. But it's crazy. It's crazy to say, but he's worth more than that. Honestly, he's worth more than that. 15-year. I mean, don't get me wrong. That is an insane amount of money. Absolutely. But if you were in his shoes, you can do better. And Boris is his agent, so they're going to try to set the standard for probably, I mean, the average annual value. I know he wants to beat that. I don't know if that'll happen because it depends on how long the contract is. Scherzer's is a short deal, so that's why they were able to give him that much money per year. Plus, Scherzer is much older. Soto, if you're signing him for that long, it's hard to pay him $43 million for 15 straight years or whatever it is. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the numbers actually end up being, because it will be the new kind of stat. He should have the highest contract in baseball history. If it's going to be the long deal like that, it should be Trout. He's the best hitter statistically the best hitter we've seen in I don't really know how long. He is he's 23. I think I was seeing stats that there was guys in the futures game that he's like 2 months older than, or stuff like that. Or they were saying, one of these real hyped up guys in the futures game was 21 or whatever, and it was Juan Soto put up a 143 WRC plus in the major leagues when he was that age or something. But just like ridiculous. He's unbelievable. So I don't know where he's going. I don't know where he wants to sign, but it seems like he's moving on from Washington. And to that point, if I was Washington, I think you got to trade him. Or it's that, or I know he still has 2.5 years of control. Do you really think you could sign? What kind of money do you think you got to throw out to keep him in Washington? And if you do that, are you able to build a team around him that can compete for a World Series?
A lot of valid points. The Strasburg and Corbin contracts on the books currently don't make that easy. I will admit, the Corbin especially, he's worse. I think he might be the worst statistical pitcher in the last 3 years.
Dude, Strasburg, that's tough. Like, he's awesome. He is so good, and I don't know what's going on. He just cannot stay healthy. Something is not right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, it's okay. Well, Trout's was the biggest contract to date. 426 and a half was Mike Trout's, and that's the base contract. Soto would have beaten him by a little bit there, but Boris was very pissed at the average annual value being what it was, being like 29.33 through the life of the contract. And I think Boris even told Rizzo, he was like, hey, I think, Juan might be looking more towards like a Max Scherzer kind of 43. And to which Mike Rizzo said, well, if Soto's willing to take 43.3 for 3 years, like Max did, we'll sign that in a heartbeat. Or we'll do that in a heartbeat. Just kind of joking around. I get your point about him not liking the losing. Juan has been quoted a lot this week saying he does not like to lose. He might have been a little spoiled though, because his first full year in the big leagues, 2019, they won the World Series. So I think in his mind, he might be a little like, oh, why can't we do this every year? But also it's like in baseball, you can't win it every year. So that's the other thing I was thinking about when all this was coming out. I'm like, you won one ring. It's awesome. you can't, unless you're the Yankees in the 90s, do that every single year. So stick it out, be patient. If they've done it once, they can do it again. Why be so jaded towards the organization now? But that's the DC fan in me. It's not really rational, but yeah, I don't like this conversation. I wish, because I just know whatever trade package the Nationals get for Juan Soto will not be enough. It won't be enough. It'll be sad. It'll be like, oh, we got this guy in AA. It's like, okay, it's Juan Soto. He's like Ted Williams. Why? He's like putting up numbers we haven't even thought of in generations. I don't know why we would trade him. So I don't know.
Yeah. You're not winning the Juan Soto trade. It's not happening. Sorry. It doesn't unless he just falls off a cliff and stinks. You're not winning the Juan Soto. It's just not gonna happen. And to that point, we were talking about it before we started recording. I love in my Twitter feed when I go to search and everything comes up. Usually the last topic down there is the Padres for me. Mm-hmm. So I'll see just random Padres Twitter people talking about things. And the hot topic, of course, is Juan Soto, because one of the writers came out and said that San Diego was the most likely landing spot for Soto. So they're just having a field day right now, but it's cracking me up because some of these people are saying they don't want to trade certain prospects for Juan Soto. And that is just Padres Twitter, Padres fans. I love you guys. That is the dumbest shit I've ever read in my entire life. I cannot say with 100% certainty, but I can say with about 99.99% certainty that anybody in the Padres system right now will never come close to the player that Juan Soto is. And I know some of those guys personally, and they're nice kids and they're good players, but Juan Soto doesn't come around very often. And you take whatever prospects you have that the Nationals want, and you pack their bags and you drive them to the airport and you send them to fucking Washington for Juan Soto, if that's what it takes.
Yeah, you're right. Because the Nationals offer, they're like, hey, we want your top 4 prospects, some big league ready guys. So for the Padres, that would be like Gore, Hassel, like Abrams, like all these guys. But yeah.
See ya.
Bye, guys. It was
sorry, Max. Sorry, Max. Hey, kid.
Yeah.
No, it's tough, especially some of the pitching, like Gore, man. Matt can be a really good fucking pitcher. And the pitching is kind of like a different aspect from the position player side, but it would hurt giving up Gore. But they right now they do have a surplus of pitching. So the flip side of it is, can these guys be good players that you're talking about? I think they're all going to be good players. Gore, Abrams, Hassel, whoever else you want to throw in there. I'm sure they're going to be fine players. They're definitely talented. They're all young. I mean, they really are. But the flip side of it is are you sad? Even if, let's say, those 3 guys turn out to be all-stars, Gore, and you trade Gore, Abrams, and Hassel for Soto, and whatever else you throw in there, you get Juan Soto in a Padres lineup with Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado. And if you win the World Series this year, who the fuck cares? What's it matter 5 years from now if those guys are all stars? You won you got what you wanted, right?
I just hope.
Is that just me?
No, you're exactly right. I was reading today that the Nationals might try to sneak Patrick Corbin in whatever deal that they do for Soto, which I think would be hilarious. So
that would be hilarious, but that I might take down. It's a give and take there, because if you throw him in there, which he was, I know he struggled recently, but he was a phenomenal pitcher before. So you could find a team that maybe he could figure something else or see something different. But if they're going to take on that money, then you're going to lose a prospect or whatever in the process. So if you're the Nationals, you're just going to lose I guess you get the money off the books, but is that worth losing a potential impact player? Maybe to them it is. I don't know.
Well, they always were big players in free agency with Boris clients anyway. So like Jason Worth and Scherzer and all these guys. So that might be their kind of play where every year, like I just keep waiting for them to, like last year, I wanted them to sign like a Chris Bryant or like a big time infielder, and they just never did. But like maybe you get rid of Corbin's, what is he? I think he's making like close to 30 a year. You get rid of that on the books, you'll lose a prospect, but then you gain the flexibility to go out and sign, whoever's big. Trey Turner, get Trey Turner back. We need to start that again. Please.
I'm just thinking, like, I would love to see him go to San Diego. There's other places. I'm sure the Yankees would fucking love to bring Juan Soto there, but they don't apparently like to like trade anybody or sign anybody these days. But that like 2, 3, 4 of Tatis, Machado, and Soto in some order is, dude, what? That is the most unbelievable run of free hitters I think we've had, and I can't even think of. I mean, that's better than the Dodgers, whatever the Dodgers roll out. Like that's
an old school Yankees lineup,
dude. That is some serious power right there. That would be. And apparently he thought he was going to sign with San Diego coming out, like when he was a kid coming out of the Dominican too, and then it just didn't really happen because the Padres were trying to sign Yohan Moncada, and they didn't have enough money to give Soto a good offer because Moncada was a lot.
It's funny how life works out like that. Yeah.
I hope they trade him because I'm here for just the carnage that is going to happen from the prospect package and just like wherever he ends up. They're going to send him to like Kansas City or something.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Cause like I was reading, they're like, they could send him to theoretically not a big market team just for the prospects. And then that whatever team gets him could just let him walk or trade him again and just have like a nonstop, have him be a series of 1 year deals for Juan Soto. But every year you just keep trading him, which I'm sure he probably wouldn't like. But you know what? He says he doesn't want to be in DC anymore. So, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Maybe you do 6 months here, a year there, another year there. I don't know. If you want to get crazy, you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. So
it's going to be crazy.
Or he could just stick it out in DC. That's always an option.
They don't have to trade him, man.
They don't.
They have 2 more years to move him.
A lot of time. That's a lot of trade deadlines and off seasons. So it's not a bad deal. All right. Next up for you guys, we have the Joe Musgrove Inaugural Guest Performance of the Week. This one goes out to our guy. We mentioned him earlier, Adam Frazier. Red hot. I'm sure he was pissed that the All-Star break happened when it did, because in his last 7 games, he had a 7-game hit streak. He batted .423 and he had an on base of .429. So I'm sure that has to be painful for some guys like that who just finally see like the ball, like they're tracking the ball right and the ball's coming off the bat the right way. And then it's like, oh, by the way, it's the All-Star break and you get to go home for 5 days or whatever. But yeah, Frazier's, I mean, his season average is 237 right now. Is there still time to turn that around, you think?
Oh, there's plenty of time, especially when you have a good, listen, this literally happened to me here. I was, not doing great average wise. And then, had that week where I went off and I think I went 10 for 19 with like 4 homers and went up to like 265 or something. And it was the end of interleague play here. And the way they do it is they set some off days the next week in case of rainouts. So we had basically an all-star break. We were off for like 4 days or 5 days. And since then, it's been a little bit more of a struggle for me. So it's the same thing. I'm like, you get hot. Yeah. Whenever you get hot, you're like, we need to keep playing. You just need to keep playing and just let's roll. And then you stop and you're like, fuck. But yes, plenty of time, dude. You put together, I mean, he said 237, dude. He puts together 2 good weeks. He'll be literally like 290. That's the crazy thing about the stat. Like if you know, one game can't get you there. But a solid 10-game stretch where you hit pretty good, you'll be way higher than you think you could be real quick.
Mix in a couple more weeks, you're batting 423. Yeah, I think we need a little bit more of those, and I think he'll be just fine. But yeah, the hit streak, everything else is clicking. But the Mariners, speaking of that, 14 in a row.
Dude.
Didn't see
Finally. I've been waiting for this all year. God.
You've been waiting for the 14-game win streak all year?
I knew it was coming, man. I knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. Dude, they have good players. And now Julio Rodriguez is like arguably the best of them. So you throw him in there and man, they can I don't know if they're catching the Astros. The Astros are just fucking unbelievable somehow, but I wouldn't want to play them moving forward. They're going to sneak into the playoffs and it's a toss up at that point, man. Fucking Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert's turned into a really good pitcher. I faced him last year in AAA. He's got some good stuff. He's tall. It's tough, man. And but my Mariners finally coming around a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you got to watch out for the Orioles too in the wild card race. I want that on the record. Dangerous.
Yeah, it's 500, man.
That's all we need. 3 wild card spots. That's all we need. That's hilarious. We have a top 5 for this week, but we have to clean up, unfortunately, the top 5 from last week. Brian won again. Okay, I think we mentioned it. Thank you. Top 5 players that you'd most want to see do a home run derby. That's literally just because you had Tatis at number 1, by the way. You could have put me at number 4 and still probably won that.
Listen, I make the right picks. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I'm the best.
I think I tied you one week, and then that was the only non-loss I've had. I won the first week, and then I've had just a hard string of L's. But maybe like the Mariners, I'm going to bust off 14 in a row.
You never know when it's going to happen. Just saying.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll do our top 5, and then we have one last segment, and then we'll circle back to that one. All right. So for our top 5 this week, hopefully I'll be able to win this one. It is the top 5 non-all-stars that you would most want to build your team around. So these are guys not on the AL or NL all-star roster this year. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to still build a franchise around them. And it was hard because a lot of these guys, you look up snubs, and then a lot of the snubs from a week ago are on the roster now because of injuries and guys opting out and whatever. So it's interesting this week. It's a thought-provoking thought experiment for us. All right, starting for my list at number 5, we're going to do BWJ, Bobby Witt Jr., Kansas City Royals. Under the radar fast. I didn't know this. Tied for the league lead in triples with 5. And I think he has double-digit steals, close to 20. So, yeah, he started out the year abysmal. I think he was batting like 150 or something. Since then, he's turned it around. A really good piece that you could build a franchise around, not an all-star. Then number 4, I have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I have Will Smith, Dodgers catcher. A guy just somehow bats cleanup in a Dodgers lineup with Freddie Freeman and Turner and all these other guys. Under the radar. So not an all-star. I think he's 27, which is not that old. You could build a franchise around your guy, the Fresh Prince there. So that is my number 4. Number 3, I have Luis Robert from the Chicago White Sox. Under the radar. He's very young. He's batting 300 this year. I think you could definitely see him leading like a franchise. Like if you were to do like a rebuild situation and he was your centerpiece, that would be fine. Number 2, I have a fellow White Sox. I have Dylan Cease, one of the best mustaches in the game. 2.15 ERA. Don't know how that doesn't make the all-star team. This guy is electric. He's only 26 years old. Like he was taken in your 2014 draft with you. Fun fact. So I don't know how he hasn't made the all-star team with that kind of numbers that he's putting up. But yeah, I want to build him as my franchise starting pitcher. And then last but not least is Fernando Tatis Jr. And this might be cheating because if he was not hurt, he probably would be an all-star. But as it currently stands, he was not on the roster. So Toddy is going to lead my rebuild as he's doing right now for the Padres. So that is my top 5 non-all-stars you're going to build a team around. So kind of cheating at number 1, but also kind of not. I don't know. I'm curious to hear yours.
By the definition of the rules, you were technically not cheating. So I'll give you that. I'm going to use guys that you didn't use. So for me, we're going to go with a close. I'll just have to say close number 5 for me right now would be Matt Carpenter from the New York Yankees, because he's just been unbelievable. He could probably play for another 15 years at this rate. But number 5, we're going to go with Brian Reynolds. Just been a solid player since he came up for Pittsburgh. Trade talks always. Are they going to trade him? Are they not going to trade him? Everybody wants him. Just a good player, good outfielder, good hitter, just gets it done. He's my number 5. Number 4, we're going to go with, I can't believe this guy's on an all-star, Kevin Gausman, my AL Cy Young pick. He's been awesome. I know he might be banged up now. I think he got hit in the foot or something with a comeback or something like that. Am I making that up? No, that definitely happened. But I don't know why he's not an all-star. Should be. Guy's nasty. I'll take him as my ace. Number 3, we're going to go with Bo Bichette. Great player. Great hitter. Leading things up there in Toronto. Him and Vladdy Jr. Love watching Bo hit. I really do. He's love the big leg kick and then how he cuts it down with 2 strikes. But he's great. Number 2, maybe a little under the radar. This guy's been disgusting this year. Atlanta Braves pitcher Spencer Strider, man, out there throwing 100. He's got the best like stuff plus or whatever the hell they call it in like the major leagues, which is wild. Man, he started in the bullpen, and then I don't know if they were like, hey, this guy's really good, see if he can start or what, but they moved him to starting, and as a starter, he's just been phenomenal. Love that. Another great mustache guy. So Spencer Strider's number 2. And then number 1, Juan De Franco. Had a tough year a little bit this year. Some injuries. Numbers are a little bit down, but he's an absolute stud, switch hitter. Power from both sides. I think as he gets older, the power is just going to come out more and more. I don't even know. He's like 20 years old or something. It's stupid. Seen it firsthand. The power is unbelievable. We used to do home run derbies during batting practice, me, him, and Nate Lowe, and me and Nate would just be laughing because Wander would just be hitting balls to the fucking moon, and we're like, this is embarrassing. This kid's 18 years old. But yeah, he's number 1. He's going to be phenomenal for a long time, obviously, as the Rays gave him that contract. And yeah, that's what I got. So those are my 5. I don't know. I think you might get the nod this week because you tapped into the Fernando Tatis Jr. fan club. So we'll see if the people are just loyal to him or if they really look at the entire team and pick the right one, which is me.
That's always my rationale every week when I pick my team. It's like they're going to see through this facade that you put up of just all Padres, but no, somehow seemingly they don't. So you know what? We're gonna play to the hits. We're gonna play the hits. You go see Aerosmith in concert. You want to hear "Dude Looks Like a Lady." You don't want to hear something off their new album. All right. That's why every week it's just going to be a different version of a top 5 that somehow gets Fernando Tatis at number 1. So I don't know what we're going to do next.
There's a lot of things he could be number 1 at, for being honest. So
legit. Yeah. Swaggiest player right now, Fernando Tatis. Coolest sunglasses. Although Josh Lowe would probably be on my top 5 if we were doing that one.
There you go.
Big sunglass guy. All right. Last but certainly not least for this week, we have our Fudging Awesome Moment of the Week. And Brian, who's it brought to us by?
It's brought to us by the original Fudge Kitchen. You can find them at fudgekitchens.com, making sweet treats and shipping them all over the country. Our Philly and Jersey Shore listeners, man, my family's down there to Jersey Shore right now. I'm very jealous. They have locations in Stone Harbor, Cape May, Ocean City, North Wildwood. If you're down there, go check them out. If not, they ship all over the country. Like I said, Fudge Kitchens with an S.com, the original Fudge Kitchen. It's amazing. Check it out.
So our Fudging Awesome Moment of the Week this week goes out to Albert Pujols. So during the Home Run Derby last night, he had it like a 30-second bonus time in the opening round. He was stuck on 10 home runs. He was looking gassed and all tired. So he stepped out of the box to take a breather. And then the crowd of all the guys sitting on the coolers that were watching the Derby on the field came out, like Soto, all the Latin guys, Machado, like Starling Marte was fanning him off. And it was just like a cool moment during the middle of the round, which I think they said that they're going to do that kind of impromptu, just to kind of surprise him. But yeah, to honor a legend like Albert Pujols with all the home runs and memories and everything that he's meant to the game of baseball, I thought that was a really cool kind of send off on the big stage for our guy Albert. Unless he goes to the World Series, which he'd probably do that then too.
Yeah, like I said earlier, he means so many guys looked up to him, especially the Spanish guys. You could see how much he means to them right there. So it was just cool to see, man. He was one of my favorite hitters growing up, and it's crazy that he's still doing it. But to give him a send off like that, definitely a cool moment, and definitely I'm sure it was special for him.
Absolutely, he had his whole family there. He looked like he was having a ball. So that was our Fudging Awesome Moment of the Week this week. Our interview this week is actually brought to you by one of the new sponsors of our podcast. It is Som Sleep. Som Sleep's beverages are specially formulated to promote relaxation, maintain a normal sleep cycle, and support healthy sleep patterns. All you have to do is drink it a half an hour before you're ready to go to bed. Helps you unwind after a long day. You're going to have the best night's sleep of your life. I've had that every single time I've opened a can of them. So go to www.getsom.com, click shop at the top, and then enter the code BATS, that is BATS, at checkout to let them know we sent you. Our interview for this week, it's a fun one. Mickey Jannis, the knuckleballer, made his debut last year. Just an awesome dude. We had him for about an hour. Brian, what did you like about talking to Mickey?
First of all, a really, really, really nice dude. Didn't know him before. I think I faced him somewhere along the way. I knew the name, but didn't know him personally until this. But man, what a story of perseverance. And I mean, he's played everywhere, independent ball. He's changed what he's done as a pitcher. Wasn't a knuckleballer originally, so his story is just cool, and he's just such a down to earth, good person that it was just fun to hear all the takes on everything. And kind of the really interesting thing to me was talking about the knuckleball community, because it's so small and how they kind of help each other out, guys who want to throw knuckleballs. And man, I said this to him, and it was it takes a special kind of confidence and intestinal fortitude to go up there and throw some knuckleballs, because it's very different, and you can definitely look like an idiot if you're not doing it very good. So one of my favorite interviews, man. It's very different, and he's an awesome dude. It was just a lot of fun to talk to him.
You're right. It's so fascinating because you're right. He was drafted, I think, in 2010. He didn't make his debut until 2021. So 11 years, a lot of independent ball, an Australian baseball league trip along the way, multiple organizations. Like, yeah, and it's the knuckleball too. It's like one of those things where it's like, if you don't trust it, it's just going to be a slow BP fastball. It'd be like 75. Just no, if it spins. And I would have loved to have picked his brain about his grip on that, because I feel like everybody's knuckleball grip's a little different. But yeah, it's just a fantastic conversation with, just kind of somebody that we're rooting for, because he's a free agent right now. He pitched a little indie ball earlier this year, but I think Mickey Jannis deserves another chance back on a big league roster to bring the knuckleball to the people out there. So
yeah, and it's I'm sure we'll have to put it up, but the clip of him, his knuckleball going, when he throws it for the Orioles, I know it was big at the time when it came out, but I just saw it again yesterday, man. What a crazy clip, dude, to see what the ball does or doesn't do as it's going to home plate. And the videos of him, and he talks about it with the JUCO king, Eric Sim, trying to catch him, man, is hysterical too. He's just whiffing. I saw that. So that was great too. We'll have to put those up on social media. But yeah, man, awesome interview, awesome guy, just so different and cool.
Absolutely. All right, we'll send it over to our guy Mickey Jannis. Yeah. All right, so we now welcome on a very special guest. It is knuckleball pitcher Mickey Jannis. Mickey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
So we're taping this during the Home Run Derby. I was catching a little bit of it. I think Soto is up. But like going into tonight, were you following the home run derby? Did you have a pick that you were kind of keeping an eye on for this?
I mean, I played with Pete Alonso, and the guy lives or dies by this thing. So I know he's always my favorite to watch, and he's always my pick.
Yeah, going for the three-peat. Yeah, I mean, Brian, what about you? When you saw the Derby lineup, we talked a little bit about it last week when it was only 5, but now that it's like 8 and it's already going right now, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it at all. It's a little early here in Japan, but it's tough to get. I said this before, tough to bet against Alonso, man. He's an absolute fucking animal at it, and he wants to win. So probably pick him. I don't know, man. I like Schwarber too. I think Schwarber can put.
So wait, that's real. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I saw you doing your career research. You played for the Mets for a little bit. How long did you play with Pete Alonso?
I was with him for about a half a year, and he got called up. But I mean, I was around him for a couple years. Actually, I think he got called up the previous year too as well. So it was almost a full year. I played with him in AA, and then maybe a little bit in AAA. But yeah, I was around him for spring training for a couple years, and then on his team for a full year.
Even like in the low levels of the minors, was he still putting out like these terrific displays of power? Like, were his BP sessions insane back then?
Oh yeah. When you kind of stopped and watched when he was hitting, and I just remember in our AA stadium in Binghamton, we have train tracks in left field, and he's clearing the train tracks, and there's like there's 3-4 sets of train tracks, and you're just like, oh my God, like how far is this one going to go? And you're just standing out in the field shagging, watching it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he seems like a great too. They were talking to him after his round, and he said that all the money, if he wins, is going to go to, like, I think it's the Pete Alonso Foundation. I don't know. Can you speak to how great, like what kind of like high character, how good of a guy he is?
Yeah. I mean, I know the last few times he's won the home run derby, he's always, if not donated all of it, but at least a portion of it to a good cause. So I mean, he's just a great guy to be around. He's he cares about everybody, talks to you, really down to earth and everything. So really good guy to have in the clubhouse and be around.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that we little Pete Alonso there. So yeah, like I said, we're doing this during the home run derby, but I was going back and I was looking, and I saw that in high school. Did you want to try to be a two-way player back in the day? How far along did you get in that process?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a position player by heart, so if I was good enough, I definitely would have wanted to be a two-way guy. I made it into junior college as a two-way guy, but that's kind of where it ended. I got too valuable on the mound in junior college, and then kind of started pushing me one way or the other. Wasn't very fast runner, but I was really good defensively, and I just had a good bat where I could make contact. Didn't have a lot of power, but it's kind of tough when you're slow and you only make contact. So, but yeah, I just got too valuable on the mound for our team, so stuck with it on the mound.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I always think that position players, like, I think they dream about being pitchers, and then pitchers dream about being position players. Brian, would you say that's a fair assessment? Did you ever want to try your hand at two-way, maybe pitch a little bit?
Listen, I was a good pitcher in high school. The day I went to college and stopped pitching was the best day of my life because my arm never hurt ever again. So no, I had no desire to do that. I say it to these guys all the time. Like, I don't know how they throw the ball as much as they do with, as hard as they do. And it blows my mind. It's crazy. So no, I'm good as a position player. I'd rather, starters, they pitch once every 5 days. That would drive me crazy. It's like kind of cool to have that routine, but at the same time, like if you don't pitch good that day, that would drive me crazy for the next 5 days. Whereas, I go 0 for 4. I'm usually the next night I have a chance to not go 0 for 4. So I don't envy the pitchers.
It's a give and take for sure.
Yeah.
Mickey, how did you stay busy during the times that you weren't pitching?
I mean, just BSing in the dugout with guys, talking about your outing, just find ways to mess around a little bit, keep it fun. For me, one of the big things that I like to do is, like I said, I'm a position player at heart, so I like to power shag on days I don't pitch, and run down some fly balls and stuff just to keep it fun. I mean, we're out there every day shagging fly balls. You might as well run around instead of just standing in one spot every day, because you're going to be doing it for the whole season. So try to make it fun that way. And but yeah, just finding anything to stay busy, have fun, talk about the game.
That's hilarious. I think it was John Smoltz who was saying that, like, his passion when he wasn't pitching was just shagging fly balls. He was just like an expert elite level shagger. But like, so when you made that switch, you decided to go full in, like all in on pitching. Like, what were the pitches that you started out with? And then what did you kind of add to your repertoire as time went along?
I was pretty much a sinker slider guy. I had a changeup too, but I didn't throw very often. Going into my Division I career after junior college, and my junior year kind of struggled against left-handed hitters. So I really went into my senior year going like, I need to figure out a consistent changeup, and then developed a cut fastball. And I actually was playing catch in my front yard with my dad in between my junior and senior year. And I was just like messing around, and I was like, hey, I can throw a really good knuckleball. Like, guys spike their curveball. So I spiked my circle changeup. So instead of like putting your pointer finger up for a curveball, I spiked my middle finger like this, and I threw a changeup that way. And I threw it, and it dropped off the table. And my dad was like, what the heck was that? And then just started throwing my changeup that way. And that was one of the big pitches that helped me get drafted after my senior year.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking. This is back when the draft was 50 rounds. You were taken in the 44th by Tampa in 2010. What was your drafting experience like? Like, how did you find out that you were drafted?
It was miserable until my name was called. It was a 3-day process, and the first day was like rounds 1 through 3, and then I think it was 3 through 25 the second day or something like that. And then the last day was like 25 through 50. And you're just sitting there looking at your laptop, just like, and they're rattling off names so fast, you like can't even keep up with it, but you're just following the draft tracker, and, you're like zoning out a couple times. You're like, is it ever going to happen? And I just remember kind of like zoning out, and then I just hear my name. It was like Tampa Bay Rays select Mickey Jannis, right-handed pitcher, Cal State Bakersfield. And then, you're just sitting there, and I'm just like, wait a second. Then you go to the tracker, and I was like, oh, that was me. And then like phone starts blowing up, and got a text from a scout from Tampa Bay, like right after that, and just said like, congratulations, we'll call you after the draft is over. And so it was pretty miserable at that point up until that point. And then my roommate in the other room actually, when I heard my name and I kind of realized it, and then he kind of realized it, I could hear him scream in the other room, like, yeah, let's go. And then he came in, he was just like, congratulations, bud, and like gave me a hug. And then we went back to like searching for it, like waiting to hear his name. And but yeah, so it's pretty crazy and kind of a relief once it happened.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, so 44th round, and you were a college senior, I think, at that time, right? So it's like, ordinarily if a guy's taken, that late in a round, they might go back to college, but you being a senior, like, was there any ever doubt of that you were going to sign, or are you just excited to be taken whenever?
Yeah, just excited to be taken whenever and getting that opportunity. I remember Blue Jay scout that I knew reached out to me, and he's like, hey, if we don't take you, like, are you going to go play independent ball and that type of thing? And I was like, yeah, I probably will. But yeah, it was like just relief. And yeah, there was never a doubt that I would go play for a little bit. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have Brian play for Tampa for a little bit there too. So, I mean, now we think of Tampa as like this hyper analytic kind of organization. What was your experience like there in like the early 2010s? What was kind of like their mindset organizationally?
Yeah, I mean, there really weren't too much analytics that you like knew about, but everything was about development. And honestly, like a lot of the guys that were there when I was there are either still with the organization or have moved on to different organizations. You got the GM was Andrew Friedman, who's moved on to the Dodgers. Actually, a pretty funny story that happened in 2019 was when the Mets were looking for their GM. Shane Bloom was one of the guys who was interviewing for it, and they flashed a picture up on the screen of him, and I was like, I recognize that guy, and I went back and I'm like, that's right, he was like on the backfield of spring training in 2011. I was walking around and I saw this guy just like carrying a backpack, and I was like, hey man, like I'm Mickey, like who are you? Like what do you do here? He's like, Shane Bloom. I'm just a video analyst, like assistant to the minor league director. Just I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, didn't really think anything of it. But then like 10 years later, I see the picture of him, like, holy smokes, like he moved all the way up, It's just pretty crazy. But yeah, they were just all about developing guys and doing it the right way. And I really like their organization. I really think they do it the right way. And they really, they really kind of have to do it that way. Otherwise it's going to be tough to compete in that AL East with the other three big spending teams.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, what can you speak to, being there firsthand in Tampa, seeing Tampa now, as opposed to when Mickey was there maybe 10 years ago?
Well, that was when they were starting to have some really good teams, back then too. So they were figuring it out for a long time. But yeah, a lot of the people have been there for a while, and they churn people out. Like he said, that, our video guys, and then all of a sudden their GMs are there close to it and making impacts all over the place. It's no secret now that organizations are trying to go and poach people from Tampa.
Yeah.
I think James Click, the Astros GM, is also a Tampa guy. I mean, they're all over the place, and there's more that are still there. But again, it's just we've talked about this with the other guys who've been on here. The culture there is it's phenomenal. What they do is phenomenal, and they can definitely develop guys. And yeah, it's a really good place to be, without a doubt.
So Mickey, I mean, obviously, 2010, 2011. Did you experiment with the knuckleball when you were drafted and you were playing pro ball, or when did that kind of first come into play?
I was about 12 or 13 years old when I first started throwing it. Saw a special on Tim Wakefield on Fox Sports Net, and went out the next day, my like little league or Babe Ruth team, and just went and chucked it as hard as I could at my throwing partner, and it was good, and just kind of stuck with it. Last 10 to 15 throws every day, just ripping knuckleballs at guys, and it just kind of took off that way. And then it's so hard to throw it in games growing up, because coaches and stuff are like, well, you're not really a knuckleball guy until like the last moment of your career. So trying to get coaches to buy in on it, it was kind of tough. And I was still a pretty good pitcher without it. So again, last resort, didn't really need it until you need it. You don't really know until kind of thing. So just kind of had it in my back pocket. And when I got to pro ball or when I got to college and pro ball, I always asked my coaches, like, hey, what do you guys think of a knuckleball? Like, well, we don't really need it right now. So like, okay. And like I said, just kind of held on to it. And when I got released by the Rays in 2011, it was just kind of like, I'm an average right-handed pitcher, 2 decent years at lower level minor leagues, and like, college senior draft, like who's really going to be looking for a guy who's throwing 90 miles an hour as a 5'8" right-handed pitcher, So I just was like, well, maybe this is the opportunity I take to throw the knuckleball and do something different that isn't around very often. And at the same time, that was happening, R.A. Dickey was taking off and starting to throw really well. So I thought that might be an opportunity where it's like, hey, maybe teams are going to look for this,
So I feel like if I was pitching and all of a sudden I wanted to throw the knuckleball, I feel like that takes balls. Like, it's not like an easy thing to do. Like, I would be nervous, I feel like, trying to go in there and throw a knuckleball. but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like you were like ready to mix it in and ready to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is that you pretty much have to commit to it because it's not just like you can't really throw it as like a timid pitch because it's like I throw it 75 to 80 miles an hour. Like that's a nice easy BP fastball if you don't throw it right. So just really committing to it and throwing it, and that's really the only thing that I try and tell guys when I have people reach out to me is that it's like you got to commit to it. You can't just like throw it in bullpens and then be like, okay, well maybe I'll throw it once or twice or throw it with 2 strikes. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. And you gotta just throw it. And you either like want to be a knuckleball pitcher or you don't want to be one. Like it's really hard to be both because eventually, they kind of like merge into, if you with all the adrenaline and pitching and it kind of merges into the same thing where if you throw like too many fastballs or too many sliders, then it changes your release point on your knuckleball, and your knuckleball has to be perfect every single time. Otherwise, it's going to create rotation, which causes less movement and predictability, and which is not what you want. You want the unpredictability. So, just the confidence behind it to throw it, and it is hard because you're used to throwing max effort, going up there throwing 90, 92 max effort. And then it's like, okay, I got to dial it back and throw 75. And if it doesn't do anything, it's just going to get hammered. So, you're just like, you get to the point where you're like, you throw 3 nasty ones in a row and get a strikeout. And then you throw one that's not very good, or it might even be good and they get lucky and hit it and they hit it for a home run. You're like, oh, well, here it is again. Here it is again. Here it is again. So you kind of just got to have that mentality where it's just like, forget about it and just let it rip.
Is it hard to throw for strikes?
That was my question.
It was at first, for sure. That was like the biggest obstacle, I would say, because when you don't throw it for strikes, then you're trying to aim it, which makes it even harder to throw for strikes. So, but I've gotten to the point now where you kind of know your release point, or like little adjustments that you can make with your mechanics or with your release that get you that feel in the strike zone where, like you kind of have like guys have that like kind of get me over curveball where it's like, I'm just going to flip this one in there and kind of steal a strike, where like I can kind of do that too with a knuckleball where I'm like, okay, I need a strike right here, 3-1, throw a strike, So definitely takes a lot of time to find that release point, but yeah, it is very difficult, and obviously that's why you don't see very many guys do it.
It's crazy. It's funny to hear about because it's so different, and I'm sure if I try to throw a knuckleball, it's the worst thing ever. So I'm sure to actually try to do it at like an elite level is not easy. And yeah, throwing strikes, because if I faced you right now, I think I'd stand there for 3 pitches and then try to figure it out from there. I don't think I'd be ready to hit right away.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole nother obstacle is like scouting reports go out the window. You get a guy who's like a really aggressive hitter, and you're like, okay, he's going to be ready to swing early in the count. Like, got to kind of spot up a little bit, throw him your good knuckleball early in the count, and then he gets in the box, and you can just see his like bat on the shoulder, like he's not going to swing at all. And then you're like, okay, now I just got to drop one in there. And then you're like trying to feel for it that way. And then, then you get other guys who are like, this guy is a patient hitter, never swings at the first pitch. And they're like, get up there, swing, get out of the box. Like, I don't want anything to deal with this, So it's like reading hitters can be like really tough and then you get other guys who are like, oh, okay, it's 3-0. Here comes my fastball. I don't care. I'm going to swing 3-0. And then I'm like, I can kind of see him digging in a little bit more right here. Like, I'm going to throw a 3-0 knuckleball. And then they take this huge hack on a 3-0 knuckleball and jam themselves. And then they're looking back like, what the heck? You're supposed to throw a 3-0 fastball. And I'm like, it's pretty obvious you were going to swing right there, bud. So.
Oh, my God. That's great. What, I know you said you're talking about the changeup grip earlier. So is that where your knuckleball grip kit like evolved from now, or was it totally different?
No, it's totally different. I think I said, when I developed that changeup, I kind of had that idea from throwing a good knuckleball. So that was,
Okay.
and just the idea of like a spiked curveball, I just like kind of threw my finger up, and I don't know if it's because like I had thrown knuckleballs in the past that like I had a flexible finger that could actually do that, because if you think about it, like spiking your middle finger on a ball, and you're like, I've shown guys like I used to throw my changeup like this, and they're like, "What?" And then they're like trying to like jam their finger up to like do it, and it's just like a spike curveball. Not everybody can throw a spike curveball, so it was that's just kind of how that developed.
Does the knuckleball
That's too
pitcher
funny.
does the knuckleball pitcher community, do they kind of like, keep their own? Does R.A. Dickey and Wakefield and some of like the OGs in the knuckleball community, do they come out and they offer advice to guys like you?
Yeah, like when I first started throwing, I reached out to Charlie Huff, kind of just like through a grapevine, just like found his phone number and was like, "Hey, I'm just got released by the Rays, trying to throw knuckleball. Like, do you mind if I come and visit you and throw for a little bit?" And he's like, "Yeah, come on down." He lived in Orange County, and went through with him a couple times, and then I was thrown in the Arizona Fall League in 2017. And all of a sudden the clubhouse manager walks by and he's like, here's Tom Candiotti's number. He's a good friend of mine and he wants to like come see you pitch. Like, okay, great. So called him up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll come out and watch you." And it's just kind of that way where it's like, and that's how a lot of guys start throwing knuckleballs too, is like there was a kid with the Rockies that was throwing a knuckleball in the minor leagues, and his coach knew Tom Candiotti. So Candiotti like went over and like chatted with him. And I mean, nowadays we have social media. So I found out about him throwing knuckleballs, and I actually reached out to him just to offer any advice. Cause I mean, I was in his position before where it was like, I'll take anything, like any help from any knuckleballer would be pretty cool. So.
Why do you think that more pitchers don't throw the knuckleball? Like, why do you think it's such a small community of guys that are willing to go out there and do it?
I mean, it's not really what gets you there, honestly. Like, teams aren't really looking for the next knuckleballer, yeah, they might give an opportunity to some guys, but it's so hard to develop and takes so long that it's hard for an organization to commit to all that. I wouldn't say it's hard for the organization. It's just hard for the patience of like learning it. And I mean, you look at me, like I started in 2012. I played 3 years of independent ball before the Mets gave me an opportunity. So there was that. And then I got signed in 15, became a free agent in 2000, after 2019, signed with the Orioles. COVID hit, and then 2021. So I was throwing a knuckleball for 10 years before I got an opportunity in the major leagues, so I think it's just so hard to commit to it, and teams just don't want to take the time to, they can develop and understand a conventional pitcher a lot quicker, especially with the analytics now, because there's no way of tracking a knuckleball and understanding how it moves or why it goes this way, why it goes that way. It's just unpredictable for everything. So I just think teams would rather be like, well, we know what we're going to get with this guy who's throwing 95 and his ball moves this way, so we'll take our chance on that guy instead.
Do you think that'll ever come around? Do you think baseball will ever go back to, I think I saw a chart of like number of knuckleball pitches thrown per year. And it was like, 10, 15 years ago, it was pretty common. And now there's like, I don't think is there even anybody nowadays that's throwing currently?
Not in the big leagues. No. There's one in AAA, AA with the Padres, I believe. But that's pretty much the only guy I know about. Like I said, there was one with the Rockies, but they gave him 6 months and then they released him in spring training this year. And, and I think it just shows how hard it is to do. And, even last year for me, like I had a really good first half, got called up, got sent down, and then I had a really bad second half. And, I think it just shows how much of a roller coaster it can be.
Brian, did you remember a Padre knuckleballer?
No, I don't know who that is. I didn't meet too many of the younger guys down there. I think I did see something about them at some point though, but it's interesting what you said about like the analytics, how, teams can just see the numbers, and the stuff with the numbers nowadays is like crazy, because half the time I feel like people just use it to like save their own ass. You know what I mean? In the baseball world, like as players or pitchers, you're like, well, his spin's this, whatever, the movement's this, like that's why we thought he'd be good if it doesn't work out, and they can kind of save themselves or save their reputation, and they're not wrong. It's just, it didn't work out. The numbers said it would, and it didn't work out. And it's just like, that's one thing that's bothered me, of like, especially as pitchers, you see guys like, they might not have the best stuff, but they just fucking get guys out. And that is like kind of irrelevant nowadays. Like, it doesn't matter if you get guys out.
There's there's few organizations that still like believe in that philosophy of like, his numbers say this, but he doesn't get anybody out. Well, there's not too many of those guys still around,
You mentioned playing in independent league baseball. I'm curious because I don't know a ton about it. What was the level of competition like at the various indie ball stops that you were on?
So when I first started, I would say the Frontier League was kind of like a low A, high A mixture. And then you had the Atlantic League, which is closer to Triple A. And then just recently I played in the American Association, and it kind of depended on which team you played, because there were some really good teams and then there were some really bad teams. So, and I think that's just how all of independent ball is right now. A lot of it depends on like guys getting picked up, because you'll get like really good teams and then they'll lose like 3 pitchers to affiliated ball, and then all of a sudden they drop off and they're not as good. So I'd say the Atlantic League was the highest level of independent ball. But they changed a lot of the rules since the last time I was in the leagues. So there's definitely a different level of competition. I'd say it's a little bit more even spread throughout all of independent ball now, whereas before it was a pretty big difference.
And also, when you're playing in independent baseball, did you know that to like stand out, to going back to what you said earlier, just like an average right-handed pitcher, did you know that the knuckleball was kind of going to be your way of doing that when you're in independent baseball?
Yeah, that's the approach I took, was that I was going to be different than everybody else. So that way, if a scout came to our game or whatever, if a coach saw me, they'd be like, "Oh, knuckleballer, like you don't see that every day. Like I'll focus in on this a little bit more," as opposed to just like, "All right, right-handed, throw on 92, got it." That's kind of so. So yeah, that was the whole reason I switched, was I wanted to be different than everybody else.
Did you also play in the Australian Baseball League? I saw that, and I don't know anything about that. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was a great time. Pretty crazy, because they only played 3 or 4 days a week. So you have like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. You might have one practice on one of those days, but then you play like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday doubleheader, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. So it's pretty cool, because then on like the other 3 days, like you can go experience, you can go safaring or go, you can go enjoy the beach or whatever. 3 days off every week was kind of nice. But yeah, really cool experience going down there.
Were you open to the idea of international play? Like, is that kind of like what led you to go down there? It's like what Brian's dealing with now, going to Japan.
Yeah, I've always been open to it. Yeah, and actually, my uncle was one of the first Americans to go down there and help create like the Australian Baseball League back in the 80s and 90s. So I already had kind of a connection down there from them, and so I was always open to going down there. And then I've been pretty much open to playing anywhere and everywhere. So
I love that. I mean, but and then you go back to the minors for a little bit, and independent league baseball. Through all these stops along the way, did the thoughts ever creep into your head of like, what's going to happen if I can't make baseball work as a career?
Yeah, but I always said that I was going to keep pitching until I can't get anybody out anymore. So I really felt like through all those stops that I really felt deep down, I was like, I think my knuckleball is good enough to pitch in the big leagues. So I'm going to keep giving it a shot as long as I can, and paid off last year, obviously. But I still feel like it's a big league knuckleball. So that's why I'm still pitching and still grinding it out a little bit. But yeah.
I love that. So I'm an Orioles fan. When did the Orioles organization kind of come onto your radar?
I was a free agent after 2019, and I just got a random call from their scouting director, I believe it was. Just got a random call when I was out playing golf, actually, and he just said, hey, Mickey, just got a couple questions about you and your knuckleball, and asked me a couple things, trying to learn about it. And he just said, all right, well, I'm glad we got to talk. And he's like, there's a couple people in the front office that really believe in a knuckleball. And if we go the knuckleball route, I think you're going to be our guy. So, just keep an ear out for us, and we'll talk soon. A couple days later, he called my agent and got an offer for him to sign. So it was kind of a no-brainer with them. I had one or two other offers that were just, kind of like, a lot of it was like, we really like Mickey as a pitcher, but, we don't really have a spot. He can come to spring training, earn a spot, where the Orioles were like, we're going to be all in on knuckleball if we call you. So they called me back and they were all in.
That had to be great to for you to hear an organization say that they are fully willing to commit with you, to you in the knuckleball. Was that refreshing to hear that some organization was willing to do that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because it seemed like the last couple of years with the Mets, it kind of faded out with the organization. The pitching coordinator that was with the Mets and who was really in on signing me, really, he's kind of the one that worked with R.A. Dickey, and so he kind of believed in the knuckleball. He had some health issues and wasn't able to work the last couple years I was with the organization. So I think it really hurt me as the guy who is behind my career pushing it forward, where believed in the knuckleball, wasn't really there anymore. So I was just kind of stuck where I was. Because again, not everybody is a believer in knuckleball. It's just one organization is like, hey, nope, knuckleball, nope, don't want it, don't even want to deal with it. And then the Orioles, they call and they're like, we're gonna be all in on it. So it's just kind of crazy how it works. But yeah, definitely refreshing, especially after being first time a minor league free agent to hear that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. And you talk about 2021, you started out strong in Norfolk and eventually you got the call. Can you take us through the day that you got the call that you're going to the big league club?
Yeah, it was it was the day after an off day, and it was about 9:00 in the morning. Just got off the phone with my wife, and just looked at my phone and started ringing, and it was my manager's name. And I just kind of thought in my head, usually if it's something with the pitching rotation, the pitching coach will call you or text you. I was like, it can't be anything with the pitching rotation. I'm either getting cut or I'm getting called up, because that's usually the only time the manager has a phone call with you and I was like, I'm pitching really well. So I was like, maybe this is the call. And sure enough, Gary Kendall, my manager, says, hey, Mickey, just wanted to let you know the Orioles are going to purchase your contract and you're going to head up to Baltimore. He's like, this is one of the best phone calls I've ever had to make. I wish I could be there in person to tell you, but just congratulations. Go up there, do your thing, throw your knuckleball, power shag, just go up there, be yourself, and best of luck. And that was pretty much it. And then hung up and started calling everyone, called my wife, first person, and then just started rattling off phone calls and throwing everything in my suitcase. And had to catch a flight in a couple hours. So I was heart was racing a million miles an hour and just trying to let everybody know what was going on. And yeah, it was just a wild day.
When you first got to the yard and were you able to soak it all in?
Yeah, that was one thing that I really wanted to try and do, where you're trying to meet everyone and trying to figure out where everything is and what you got to do. But at the same time, I wanted to take some time and just go and stand in the dugout and then go and stand on the field and just kind of look around. I'd never I'd never been to Camden Yards before, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, just trying to take in as much as I could and appreciate the moment.
As a knuckleball pitcher, did the catcher, I think it was Austin Wins that day, did he have to get like an oversized mitt, or what was that like, trying to figure out how, like, was he familiar with catching you?
He was a little bit. He caught me a couple times in spring training, and then he caught me in some bullpens and stuff. But I actually carry around a catcher's glove with me everywhere I go, just because catchers don't have oversized catcher's mitts with them. So I carry it around with me, and that's usually every team that I go to is like, "Hey, do you have a catcher's glove? Do you have a catcher?" Yes, I got a catcher's glove. Don't worry.
That's hilarious. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
That's Wynn's great. I played with Wynn's in the fall league. Great dude. Good catcher too. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Love him.
So that first outing against the Astros, I think you came up when it was like the heart of the order. Your first batter was Yordan Alvarez. Like, do you remember anything about that first at bat and just like, the emotions you were feeling as you got out there?
Honestly, a lot of the pitching is kind of a blur, but the biggest moment I do remember is when I was warming up. Usually kind of like blocking out the noise, and like you're not really focused on that at all. But for whatever reason, I heard the PA announcer just say, like, over the loudspeaker, like, making his major league debut, Mickey Jannis, like, over the loudspeaker. And that's when it kind of like hit me. But I was like, I'm about to toe the rubber to throw another pitch, and I'm just like, okay, I got to take a step back, take a deep breath, like, again, trying to like take it all in. But at the same time, it's like, all right, Yordan Alvarez is coming up. Like, I got to get him out. So it's just like, it's pretty crazy thinking back to it. And, it's really hard to put into words. I think, anybody that you talk to who makes their major league debut, like a lot of their debut is pretty much a blur just because there's so much going on, and you're like trying to take it all in, but also have that task in front of you where you like got to get the guy out or got to get a hit, whatever it may be.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Brian, was that the same thing with you with your debut, just trying to soak it all in, but also try to like be present?
Yeah, absolutely. That's literally the battle, because you don't want to take it for granted. I mean, it's something you've been working for your whole life and dreaming about your whole life. So you do want to soak it in, but at the same time, you still got to play, and you want to compete and want to do good. But I think it's for guys who've had a longer journey to get there, or we'll say a tougher journey, like me and Mickey's a little longer than me, but like it's the guys who are like high picks, first rounders or stuff. Like I feel like there's just kind of that expectation that it's going to happen and they're going to play forever. So maybe they don't try to do that as much. But the guys who were seniors, I was 8th round senior signed, so the grind to get there might be a little bit tougher. So when you do get there, you're like, okay, like this is it. Yeah. I did it. And it's just kind of like, it's hard to describe, man. And then the ball, you throw a pitch or something happens, I'm in the box and a pitch comes at me, and I'm like, oh shit, all right, baseball, let's do this, but it's definitely a special moment. And I do, like, for me, I'm sure people said this to you too, Mickey, like when I made my debut, that was, most people said to me, like, enjoy it, like soak it in, take the time to appreciate it. Don't just be like tough guy. Oh, this is baseball, let's do this, and I definitely, I did it. I soaked it in, and I'm very glad I did.
Yeah. I just remember guys talking about that all the time. Like, hey, if you get up there, like, make sure you soak it in a little bit, like understand like the moment that is happening, just because, it doesn't happen to everyone. And obviously, like you said, like those high picks, they're just kind of like expected, like, yeah, I'm going to be there one day, no matter what. But, guys like us, it's just kind of like, trying to appreciate it a little bit more. And again, it happens so fast, like through that day. Next day, first road trip is in Buffalo, of course, and then and then I get DFA'd right after that. So it's just like, you appreciate it, you're there, and guys are like, hey, first of many, and then it's like gone. You're like, nope, first one. That's all it was, And they're like, hey, keep pitching well, you could be back. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. But it just kind of shows like how quick you can go up there and quick you can go away. So again, same thing. Like, I'm glad I took it all in and just tried to enjoy it as much as I could. And, so it's harder to put into words everything that happened those few days.
It's the truth, man, because you never know, no matter what. And it's like cliche to say, but you never really know when your last opportunity is truly going to be. And
yeah,
you don't want to take it. You don't want to take it for granted. It's like some guys probably get to, they just have a little more opportunity or whatever. But yeah, man, it's such an accomplishment, and I'm pumped to hear that you took it all in that way too, because that's a cool thing for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that outing didn't necessarily go the way you thought, but like, was there still a moment after the game? Because I saw like the cameras were cut into your family in the stands. Was there just like still a moment after the game of celebration and love, just like the fact that you made it there after all those years?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's always the tough part about looking back at it is like, did it go the way I wanted to? No, but did I still get there? Yes. Like, very cool. Like, the Astro, like when I think back and talk about it, like one of my best friends was on the Astros at the time. He's like, it really kind of sucked for you. Like, we had won 12 games in a row. We're the hottest team in baseball, the toughest lineup. And you went through the lineup. Like, I went through the lineup the first time and 1 run in 2 innings, like pretty solid. And then, third and fourth inning kind of lost it and just, or whatever. But at the same time, like, I went through the lineup, like in the middle of a 12-game win streak, hottest team, like threw the ball well the first time through. And then, so, and again, you're there in the moment. So I think it's, you appreciate being there, but at the same time, you're like, God, couldn't get through a second time. Like, or maybe if they'd taken me out after 2 innings, but obviously, part of the game is you got to eat up innings. When, I came in and it was a 7-0 game and, it's a blowout. They're like, hey, keep going. Like, trying to, you think you're in the moment. So you're like, of course, like I still got it. Like, but then you look back and you're like, man, I was probably exhausted, just like mentally, physically exhausted after, the second or third inning and just like, just lost the feel of knuckleball and got hit around. But again, I still made it up there and, so it's just it's fun looking back, but it's also frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. So take me through what happened after that. So I think you finished 2021 with the Orioles, and then what took place this year, and where do you see the future heading for you?
Oh yeah, this year's just been a whole nother grind. Free agent, minor league free agent after the year, and we had the lockout, so a lot of things were messed up with the lockout. I was just waiting to get an offer from a team, and there's some interest, but never gotten like an official offer from any affiliated team. So, really still want to pitch, and I think after the season, I really told myself like I really want to give it a couple more years before moving on. Like, I really feel like I can still get guys out, like guys who I throw with, bullpens, live BPs that I throw to. They're like, dude, how do you not have a team? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's the analytics part where people don't, coaches or front offices don't know how to track the knuckleball, that type of thing that might scare them away. Or, my horrible second half that I had, it kind of sucks, but didn't have a very good second half. So maybe they're looking at that going like, maybe he doesn't have it anymore, so just been grinding it out. Started in indie ball a couple months ago now. And actually, got hurt a little bit. So took like 2 weeks off, came back, game through well, and they cut me because they needed a veteran position player. They needed a veteran infielder, and I was a veteran pitcher, so they cut me. And so that's when I decided it was pretty much the All-Star break anyways. So that's why I pretty much went home and connected with Charlie Huff again. That's why I'm out here throwing for a couple days, and then going to catch on with another independent ball team, or, going to make some calls and see if anybody needs some fresh arms, because being a free agent is a little bit helpful, because when you're an independent ball, they have to buy out your contract. And I think a lot of teams have been avoiding buyouts of contracts from independent ball teams because they raised the prices for the players. So I think a lot of teams are shying away from those buyouts now. But yeah, gonna finish the year at least in independent ball, and hopefully it leads to a job next year, or maybe try to play some winter ball or overseas. Just kind of open to anything. But like I said, still want to give it a couple more years of throwing, and I'm kind of carrying the torch with the knuckleball right now. So don't want to be the last guy to ever throw it, but also want to be the next guy to throw it in the big leagues. So, and I still believe I can do that. So like I said, that's why I want to give it a couple more years of pitching and see where I end up.
Absolutely. Have you noticed, because I think R.A. Dickey said that his knuckleball got better with age. Have you noticed, like, as the years have gone on, that your knuckleball has looked so much better?
Yeah, I think when I was with the Mets, like, it seemed like every year that I threw, it started getting better and better every year. And just kind of like every year you kind of figure out something new that works, or something that worked this year that didn't work last year, and that type of thing. So I think just just kind of finding it every year, and just being consistent with it, and the delivery. And but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the quotes that they use. Takes a lifetime to master it, and you still can't even master it, because it's just, you could have it one day, and then the next day it's just like gone. Like, can't throw a ball without spin, and then the next day it comes back. So it's just day-to-day battle sometimes, but yeah, it's just going out and throwing it, and just finding it every day.
I love that. All right. Well, I just have a couple quick last rapid fire questions for you. Thank you so much for hopping on here tonight, Mickey. Yeah. So how often do you go back and watch that slow-mo video that the Orioles put together of your knuckleball? That's the coolest video I think I've ever seen.
I don't really go back and watch it myself. Usually if it pops up on like my feed randomly, it's kind of funny to see, like, oh, somebody new posted it or something like that, or somebody will send it to me. But yeah, it is pretty cool. It's actually pretty funny when it happened, just because I was in spring training and we were out on the field practicing, and we come back in the locker room, and I like look at my phone, and it was like 600 new follows, like 500 retweets. I'm like, what in the world just happened? And then like a couple of the guys in the lockers next to me, he's like, hey, Mickey, you're on ESPN right now. And I was like, yeah, I just figured that out too. And it was just like, my phone was just blowing up for like 3 days. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's like the single coolest video I think I've ever seen on social media. Are you also aware of just like the cult following that your player on MLB The Show has? Because I feel like that's the other thing that comes up with you. It's like everybody's like, I pitched a complete game no-hitter with Mickey Jannis on the show. Yeah,
that's full of my DMs on on Instagram or Twitter. They're just like, hey man, I just used you on MLB The Show. I'm just like, cool. Like, I don't really know what to say back to that a lot of times, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know if you know Eric Sim on social media, the king of JUCO guy.
Oh yeah.
So I threw with him a couple times, and he had fun catching and hitting me. It was brutal, but he had a good time with it. And so one of the guys, some guy messaged me on Twitter and was like, "Hey man, I just pitched against King of JUCO with you," and he took a video of it and he sent it to me, and Eric Sim was just like going off. He's just like, no, not Mickey Jannis, and he got like a 3-pitch strikeout to end the game, so he lost. he's like, my boy Mickey Jannis got me in real life and in MLB the Show. So it's pretty funny, but yeah, I'm
great.
aware of that, and unfortunately, I don't play. I don't play a lot of it just because I got a kid right now, and just don't have that opportunity to play it. But everybody's always asking me about it.
I don't think I've ever asked Brian. Do guys play the show? Do MLB players play the show? And have you ever played as like yourself?
Yes, they do. No, when I play, I don't play it. The only thing I play on there is like my own road to the show. I don't know. People have sent me clips of hitting with me, but no, I haven't. I'm probably not very good, so it wouldn't be fun to play with myself in that. So I just make my own guy and make him good. But yes, it's funny because it's like, do you really need more baseball? But at the same time, I don't know. It's something about
passing the time with it and
it's fun.
Making it to the big leagues with the
but
game.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's stupid, and yeah, I get way too much baseball, but sometimes it's still fun anyway, and still play it.
That's fascinating. I've never even thought of that.
Brings out the kid in you again, I guess, is probably what it does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that. I just have a couple quick last ones for you. Do you have like a favorite piece of memorabilia that you've kept from your career?
I mean, my first strikeout ball was pretty cool. They wrote on it and everything, so that's pretty cool. I have like all those from my debut. So I have my jersey, I have my hat and my baseball. I have my first pitch ball and then the first strikeout, and then that's pretty much the main memorabilia that I have. I like collecting it. I just don't have like a lot of it. Like I have a lot of stuff that I've used, but nothing really like memorable about the things. So
Gotcha. This is my last question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I just always like being able to be confident in yourself as a player. And I think that's really important, especially with the knuckleball, like we talked about earlier, where just going up there and throwing it, where it's like you haven't thrown this pitch in 10 years, and then all of a sudden I'm going out there trying to throw it and be a professional baseball player throwing it. And again, that's just goes back to just having confidence in yourself and what you can do. And I tell people that when they ask me, like, did you ever think about giving up on your journey? And I really never did, just because for me, I had the confidence in myself that I can pitch in the major leagues and that my knuckleball was a major league knuckleball. So again, just having confidence in yourself and believing in yourself that you can get it done. Kind of been steering me along this road.
I love that. This has been incredible. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, your story is fantastic, and best of luck in free agency and everything else you have going on.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.